Chair now recognizes the gentlelady from California, Ms. Barragan, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to note for the record, it was under the prior administration, the Trump administration, that the EPA budget was effectively slashed. It was gutted. Certain departments were shut down. So can you imagine when you inherit an EPA that has that, how you have to undo all that harm and then get back up and ready, and then rehire people? I think that's what was missing from that last conversation. Anyhow, Mr. Administrator Regan, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for all the work that you do day in and day out, for your leadership to advance the Biden administration's climate and environmental justice priorities. EPA has been on a roll lately with proposals to reduce pollution from cars and trucks, reduce methane pollution, oil and gas wells, and mercury pollution from power plants. Thank you for all of that work. Last month, the Congressional Hispanic Caucus hosted an environmental justice town hall with Latino environmental justice advocates, climate groups, and EPA staff. We heard about the incredible potential for the $3 billion in environmental justice block grants in the Inflation Reduction Act to improve the quality of life in communities. We also heard about the challenges that we need to overcome to ensure that these grants reach the frontline organizations doing the work in our communities on the ground. What steps is EPA taking to ensure that these grants support locally led projects in communities that need them the most?
Well, thank you for that question, and thank you for your leadership on this issue. There are two things I'd like to highlight. The first is we'll establish an EJ Thriving Communities Grant Makers Network with over $500 million from IRA. That specifically will give the resources to funders in every region of EPA, specifically in the communities. That will ensure that the money is going to grassroots organizations that have the capacity, and we are working with grassroots organizations to identify those. For those grassroots organizations that don't have the capacity, we've created the technical assistance centers. There are 17 of them across the United States. What we've done is we've chosen 17 organizations that have the ability to handle $10 million and begin to build capacity with grassroots organizations and community organizations. They will prepare them for the grant writing processes and the capacity to apply for that $3 billion in environmental justice dollars. So we're not being paternalistic. We recognize that we don't exactly know who should have these opportunities, and we're working with our partners to identify them, build capacity so that they can be competitive.
Great, thank you. There are dozens of startup, shutdown, and malfunction loopholes in the Clean Air Act that allow refineries, power plants, and industrial facilities to release huge amounts of pollution into the air of neighboring communities without consequence. Now, I commend EPA's work to close these loopholes in state plans all at once called a consolidated rulemaking. But the agency is also removing loopholes one at a time from EPA regulations. At this pace, it will take decades to eliminate them. Will the EPA take action to remove all polluter loopholes from EPA rules through one rule?
We've taken action. I will say we reinstated the 2015 SSM policy from the SIP call. And so moving forward, we are trying to work with a strategy as directed by the DC Circuit Court. I think what will be good is for me to have my staff work with yours to talk through how we're closing these loopholes under the letter of the law in a way that we can reduce pollution and protect communities.
Well, thank you. This is an urgent issue that myself and 24 colleagues recently wrote you on. These facilities are overwhelmingly in Latino and Black communities. A strong action would help fulfill the EPA's commitments to environmental justice. I want to thank you again for all your work, Administrator Regan, and I wish you luck in moving forward on IRA and making sure we're doing all we can. With that, I yield back.
Thank you.